All right, welcome. My name is Ryland Talamo. I'm production director here at Centerpoint Church. This is a overview of in-ear training for not just vocalists, but band and vocals here at Centerpoint Church. And the goal here is to communicate best practices for anyone on the team on a typical Sunday, or men's or women's. This applies to all different service types. We've done this training in person, but wanted to make this resource available online as well for those of you who weren't able to make it. So I'm going to just start as if it was a typical Sunday and I'm getting here ready to serve. When you get here, just grab whatever your mic or instrument packs are. We have everything on charge in the back as you come on stage. So all the packs are labeled with the appropriate label for your position. So if you have an in-ear pack, grab it. If you don't, drums and bass are wired, so you just walk over to your mixer and when you plug into this thing. And then if you're a vocalist, grab the corresponding microphone. So Vox 3, your Vox 3. Go ahead and grab that. For the packs, you plug your headphones in here. Just make sure, if you don't have a battery, you can open the door of the body pack, and this is where the battery goes. One thing I'll say also, this applies, it's the same exact battery for microphones. If you untwist this, that comes off, and you can just pop this little door out, and the battery comes out. If your mic was left not on charge, what I would do is grab your mic and then grab an extra, if say there's a vocal team of 4 or 5, Vox 6 isn't going to be used that day. If your mic wasn't charging, grab Vox 6, take this off, steal the battery out of mic 6, and put it in yours. And then you can literally put this on charge in place of the microphone. It goes flat down on the charger, and you'll see a red indicator light telling you it's charging. If you have any issues, just flag a production person down and we'll swap it as well. So yeah, grab your packs. To turn them on, you just twist the knob and the screen will turn on and say sure, and you're ready to go. For these mics, the switch is at the bottom, toggle it to the right, and you'll see the screen turn on. It should also say, it should match. Vox 3 is the printed label. Vox 3 is also the digital label on the screen. Beyond that, if you have your own in-ears, awesome. If you don't, if you're using ours, this is just a housekeeping thing. We have several different types of in-ears. This is a pair of Shure SE215s. Nothing glamorous here, but when you're done using them, our request is that you go back on your way off stage. There's a little thing of brush picks for cleaning them, and there's also lens cleaning wipes, alcohol wipes basically, for cleaning the in-ears. When you're done, we don't want to share earwax, that's pretty gross. So when you're done, you exit stage, grab one of these. These are, careful with them, you don't want to go with the Shures, there's a little mesh, but if you're cleaning other pairs, just go in and clean out any of the earwax that might be around it, throw this away. These are brand new foamy plugs, so I'm not worried about it, I'm going to put that back. And then grab one of these and just swab the outside and the body of the in-ear itself, so it's ready for the next person. We ask that you do that at the end of the 5 p.m. when you're serving on a Sunday in preparation for whoever uses them next time. And that's it for this, so just come in and grab that stuff. I did want to also show this mixer. So this is for drums and bass. What we have is inputs. The inputs are here. This is where your left and right come from. That's your mix left and right. What you'll do is there's usually a headphone extension cable plugged into the phones. It says phones right there. And then this is where you plug in your actual in-ears. It's a 3.5, so you have to convert. This is a 1/4 inch. Plug in the extension to 3.5. This plugs into your in-ears. Just like that. Perfect. The way that these work is they should be plugged into the back for power. Push this button down for power. It should already be on. In Venue 1, they're on every day, so that should be fine. They usually have pads, which is correct. They help keep the signal level manageable and not overdrive the inputs of this. So pad should be on. Gain should be all the way down on both. EQ, flat. I mean, if you have a preference, you could mess with EQ. I would just ask you put it back to 12 o'clock on both channels. You do want mono. This is a mono stereo toggle right here. You want this pushed down. That means it's stereo, which will automatically split 1 and 2 left and right out of the phone's output. Otherwise, what it'll do is if it's not clicked, you'll hear both 1 and 2 dead center. There will be no separation between left and right, so you want that there. With the volume, I would say leave it at about 2, 3 o'clock here, as long as it's a good level, and then use this knob. It says level phones. Right there, and kind of make it visible, but level phones is your headphone output volume. You don't need to worry about this knob because we're not using the main output. This is the XLR or quarter-inch main outs. That's the red knob. We're not using those. If you have something plugged into your phone's output, you need to use the phone's level knob to control your overall volume. What I would suggest, and this is getting into the app a little soon, but leave your aux master at 0, and we'll take a closer look at this when I start in on this. Leave that at 0, and then control your overall volume here. We'll get into the balance of mix in the app versus mix here a little bit later. But that's the mixer. It's the headphone extension. That's basic grabbing your mics in the morning. And what we're going to do now is what I wanted to do with this workshop is go through how to build a decent in-ear mix. And good news is it's actually worked out because we have the new drum cage now, which will change a little bit about how we balance and mix things. You'll have less bleed of drums in your ears, which is a great thing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what we're going to hear is a loop recording of You Are Good from Seek Night in September 2024. And you're going to hear David's mix, and we're going to mix it like it was David's ears. So I had grabbed Vox 3, and this night he was Vox 3 using pack Vox 3. And so in the app, if you can see it here, I have already logged in as Vox 3 on fader. So if you get here for the first time, you'll need to log in with a password. The iPads on stage have the password taped to the side of the iPad if you forget. There's one difference here. If you look at this, it says the password is 6961002 band. Vocals, you don't need to see all the band mixes, so your password is 6961002 VOX for vocals. But we're going to log in as band today just for fun. 6961002 BAND. Log in, and in this case, they can see everything. This is I programmed it this way so that if Caleb or whoever's MDing is logged in as band, they could adjust anything for anyone on stage. You don't have access to things like effects buses in the master on purpose because you don't need to be messing with those. So once you're logged in, whether it's vocal or band login, you'll see some collection of available mixes. What I would do here, let me make sure that's in focus. Right there, it looks pretty good. Is click on the corresponding mix, so Vox 3. And what I'm going to do now is put these headphones in, and we're going to talk through what makes a good mix. Fundamentally, the idea of creating a mix is you want to create something that sounds really good to you, that puts your instrument, whether that be voice, keys, bass, guitar, whatever, at kind of the forefront, but that doesn't overpower what else is happening around you. Context is really important here. Like for band, you need to know what the other band members are playing. And you need to hear MD to make sure that you're following cues that are being called. And then for vocals, you need to make sure you're hearing the other parts, because if you can't hear all the other parts, you don't know how meshed in tune you are with whoever else is singing. And then we'll talk about also balancing room mics. The best practice is to leave both ears in and use the room mics to engage with the room. We have 4 room mics in Venue 1. Let me see what you have access to of Vox 3. I gave you access to 2 out of the 4. I did that because the other 2 are split mono. It would give you 3 different channels here to mess with. And I think that just giving you a pair is manageable. If you have more than that, it's really easy to wash out your mix with a lot of room sound, and it really pollutes the mix. We're gonna try to make a mix that's really clear, well-defined, and yeah, that sounds good, because really, you're here for 8-9 hours of the day, you're doing a morning rehearsal, you're doing a run-through, and you're doing 3 services. You wanna have an experience of listening that's pleasant, that's not too fatiguing, but that also is loud enough where you feel like you're solid when you're actually singing or playing. So we're gonna dive into this, and yeah, we're gonna start to listen to this mix of You Are Good on Vocal Vox 3. So I turned it on, I see level. If I turn it down, you see the audio meter on the pack itself goes way down. That A right there is for audio level, so if I turn it up. And what best practice is to leave that master fader at 0. 0, if you look on the right side, there's 2 sets of numbers. Don't leave it down here at 0. Look at the right side and leave it at 0. If you also touch it, you'll see up here there's a number that's changing as I move the fader. We want that number at 0. That will give you the best starting place for building a mix that has enough headroom. Headroom meaning you have room to turn things up and down. You don't have to turn things way up to hear them. And then you balance overall volume with your pack volume. So this is David's mix from that night. Ignore the Nord. Normally, everything should not be red and orange. This is playing back from Pro Tools, so the level's a little bit hotter than what's gained on the console currently. So everything, MD is pretty normally peaking because it doesn't matter that much, and it fluctuates a lot, and I don't want to compress it too much, so MD is fine to peak. Keys would not normally be peaking. Same thing for vocals. But everything you have here is going to be part of your mix. I've kind of simplified it a little bit. So kick in, snare top, snare bottom. There are more channels on the kit than you can see here. I've got sub kicks. There's also a crotch mic that is like in between all the toms and over the kick drum. That's mostly for front of house enhancement. For vocals especially, I try to keep it simpler. I gave you a fewer options overall for drums, but you've got SPDX, which is the drum pad. Bass 1 is usually string bass. Bass 2 is either another string bass or like a synth bass. Acoustic is pretty obvious. Electric guitar is electric guitar. Sometimes we'll have tracks electric. If we don't have an electric player, we'll put it in as tracks. The Nord is the bottom red keyboard. Sometimes if there's more than one keyboard, the top keyboard is Phantom. That's just the model of the keyboard. And then if there's a third keyboard, we have it here as Synth. MD is in this case Caleb, so that's the MD mic. At keys, MD drums is the other one in drums. And then you've got vocals. Vocals 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. We're not using 6, I'm gonna turn it all the way down. So, got all these vocal parts. Click, pretty obvious. It's our favorite thing to hear all day. Guide is also our favorite lady giving cues. Tracks instruments is a mix of whatever instruments are being output from Ableton and the computer rig. Sometimes if we have tracks BGVs to supplement, like to support the live vocals, those will appear as tracks vocals, tracks Vox, and then tracks, you can't see the whole name, but it's tracks EGTR, which is tracks electric guitar. And that's where if we had sometimes we'll do a lead or a rhythm on stage and then have the opposite, vice versa, coming out of tracks. If we have no guitar player, we'll put it out of tracks sometimes. Axie 1 is a hosting mic. Axie 2 is a hosting mic. Speaker is the main mic for whoever's speaking that day. And OC is oh crap, that sits on the floor as a spare. So just as a note, I would keep those up in your mix so that you have context for if someone jumps on stage, especially during a Seek night, you want to hear what they're saying to catch cues that they're throwing you to go to the next song or whatever, to flow and whatnot. Room overhead, that is the room mic pair. You shouldn't need Graphics 1, that's like videos from the back, the bumper or whatever. Spotify shouldn't need. Vocal verb, Vox verb is reverb for vocal. And then Vox doubler, Vox delay, drum verb, band verb, all effects, and then cajon. Clear com is an important channel. It is a mix of MD. This is just the way it's wired. There's no way around it. It's MD and our production comms at a specific channel. So you're not going to hear us calling shots or talking much. It's for if we need to give you a cue, like if Andy, Weekend Experience Director, has something to say, like, hey, keep going, hey, we have another baptism, whatever, either he or I or whoever's producing might jump on that channel. It's called on ClearComm, it's called MD channel, but for you guys, it's ClearComm. We'll go over balancing that because it has MD and MD also is a channel. You have to kind of balance it where you want enough of it so you can hear us, but if you have them both up, they get a little phasey. And then Green Room Talkback is the mic right off stage for any announcements that David has before he comes out. Front of House Talkback is the microphone at front of house for any communication from the mix engineer. And those are all pretty important for just flow of service and rehearsals. Yeah. All right, let's look at building a mix. So I went back to the console and made sure we had effects going. It's just the way that works. You have to have stuff turned up, but I muted the house in Venue One so we could use it just for our in-ears. So what I'm gonna do is kind of start from scratch. I'm gonna pull everything out of this mix, and then we're gonna build one from scratch that favors David's vocal. I also fixed some gain on Nord and David's vocal, so we won't see peaking. We shouldn't see peaking on David's vocal or the keyboard. Okay, and I before I start really going, I might go through some specific things so you can hear what's happening and kind of understand what we're looking at here. So I turned everything down. Sunday to Sunday, what happens is we boot up the audio console in front of house and we'll load a weekend scene. And what that usually is a saved scene at a point where it was a good mix on a good day, and so you're getting a loaded mix that someone else did, unless you happen to be the singer that was singing the day that we saved it, which there's not going to be a way, we're not going to have that information for you. So it'll be something will be, happening with this mix. But we're going to look at building one from scratch, and I'm going to go through a couple channels that are important just to identify what they are. So this is kick in. Obviously, it's kick drum. This is really key for keeping in time with the band. Kick drum is the heartbeat of the band. Looks like we're at a place where there's no bass right now. What I would do, I'm looking at this and I'm hearing it in my ears. I'm going to start a mix. I'm going to put my pack level at 12 o'clock because off is way over here. I'm going to turn it to 12 o'clock right there and leave it there. That's giving me a lot of volume. I mean, from my experience right now, SE215s do not have a lot of bass or low mids. They don't sound great, I'll tell you that. I'm a big proponent of custom molded in-ears, so if you're singing a lot, that'd be something to look into, singing or playing a lot. But for now, we're just gonna run with it. It'll probably sound pretty good on the recording because you're hearing, obviously not out of these, you're hearing a direct recording of what we're mixing right now. But anyway, that's kick in, snare top. There's snare. Yep. You got toms, which are they're used mostly for fills and tom grooves. Overhead pair. That's the pair of overheads in the kit. Here's bass. Acoustic. This is, in this song, David's guitar is on, but on a stand, I'm assuming, behind him. So we're not going to bother with mixing acoustic in this song. There's electric guitar. There's keys. We're not going to use phantom or synth in this song. Here's MD.
Line.
There's Caleb. MD cues, vocal 1. And then, there's Vox 1. Click, easy. And here comes unison vocal. So Vox 2, Vox 3, there's David. Here's Vox 4. and then Vox 5. Vox 5. Okay, so we heard click. I don't think there's guide in this song, but guide is the verse, chorus. This song is just a tracks loop. So that's all that we're hearing out of tracks for this entire song. And then you've got, there's the room pair of overheads. So that's the room. You can hear a lot of people clapping. Great, they're having fun. There's Vox verb, so that sounds like you're in a stadium. Vox doubler, that's a really cool chorus effect. I only use it a little bit in-house, and it will enhance your inner mix, especially as a vocalist. There's the delay. That's just a delay effect. I'm not going to use that in this mix because it's not tap tempoed right for this song. Live, we have to tap tempo it per song. And then drum verb is the same kind of stadium large room reverb effect for mainly snare, just to get that and the delay of the snare. And that's about it. We're not gonna, I'm gonna use ClearComm to balance MD and ClearComm in this example. You're not gonna hear us say anything from production in this example, but we'll add those in at the very end. I'm gonna start back at the beginning with this mix. So I'm just gonna start to go with it and explain what I'm doing as I'm going. The goal here is to get a balanced mix of everybody on stage. I would say for vocals, especially now that we have the fully enclosed drum cage, you want some drums in your mix. It's more immediate response of hearing the time of kick, drum, snare, and all that to keep you in groove with the whole band. So we're gonna start this mix. I'm gonna mix it as if I was David. And then we'll do a pass and we'll come back. One thing I will say before I dive all the way in is you've got levels of these little fader buttons. And then up top, you've got pan. You can either click to pan, like, you have to tap it, and then pan left, pan right. The things you want center in a mix are things of high importance for your overall experience and for keeping you in sync with the band. So kick, snare, overheads, because they're stereo, they're already left and right. Bass, MD, click, guide, and yourself. For me, those are the keep them center. Center means that you're hearing that thing out of left and right at the same volume. When you pan something, if you pan it left, you hear it more out of this side. If you pan it all the way left, you hear it only out of the left side, nothing out of the right. So we're gonna look at that even in drums right here, because I wanna build a balanced drums mix. Snare, I keep center. Here's toms. We're not gonna hear toms unless he hits them, but what I like to do with toms is pan them. Pan them based on, if you're on stage, how are they laid out in the cage? And so in the cage, high tom is left. Let's go, I'm not gonna hard pan these, but I will pan them like 75. Mid tom, let's do like 15, and then low, 55. Let's see if there's a fill. A snare fill. Overhead, there's the balance there of getting some of the cymbal sound. Okay, and then there's a drum. So you heard the toms go from left to right, high, mid, low. And that's how they're laid out in the cage. At front of house, I have them the other way because if someone's looking at the stage, they're seeing them 180 from you. But there's a good drum mix right there. I'm gonna add bass. I wanna keep bass center. Just pan to the right 5. Okay, skip acoustic for now. I would start to pan guitar like, if I'm David, guitar is to my left, I'll pan him a little bit to the left, like 30. Keys. Even though keys is to the left as well, I'm gonna pan it the other way so that you've got guitar on the left a little bit, keys a little bit to the right. Sounds pretty good to me. I'm gonna turn MD up, here we go. Okay, vocals. What I would do for vocals is pan them based on how they're standing. If David's dead center and he's 3, you have to do this flip in your head because 1 through 6 is from our perspective in the booth. So 1 is over here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In this case, I'm gonna pan Vox 1. $65, Vox 2, $35. Leave David center. And then Vox 4, right 35. And then 5, 65.
Now, look at somebody.
So what that does is that gives you a spread of all the vocals. What I find in my experience doing any in-ear stuff and even singing on ears is if I have all the vocals center, I lose myself in that mix. I like having a spread, and again, nothing is fully 100 to the right and left, except for a stereo paired channel that has 2 meters, like overheads, is hard left and right. That means 100 to 100. But pulling them in a little bit, it gives you a wider image, but it also will separate and free up some of that room in the center for yourself and for like the important kick, snare, all that. You still want to hear them, but having that spatial awareness where, okay, one is I'm hearing it here, and when I look over, they're over here. There's that, it's kind of a nice experience for that to all happen together.
Of what God's gonna do at Centerpoint Church. Are you ready?
So back at
Are
0.
you ready? Are you ready?
Here we go.
Are you ready? Let's
click.
go! Let's go! You are good!
You are good all the time, all the time. You are good. You are good all the time, all the time. You are
One more time, say you are good all the time.
Tracks.
all the time. You are
Hey, oh.
Room.
People.
all the time.
Here we go. People say.
Then,
People from every
so I turned room up. Here's what happens if you give too much room.
generation. Let's go. We worship you.
That is nasty. So really be careful with the room. You want to be engaged with the room, like especially if the band drops out and you have a crowd singing moment. You want to hear that, but you don't want to overpower your direct mix. So be careful with room. And next we're gonna hit the effects. I'm gonna work in Vox verb and stuff.
Yeah. Here we go.
So Vox verb.
Say, Lord, you are good. Say, Lord, you are good. Your mercy endureth forever.
I don't want that much.
Say, Lord,
Probably-
you are good.
Lord, you are good and your mercy endureth forever.
And I will say this is a preference thing. Some people love we call it a really wet mix where it's very washy and very verby. Some people like more direct. So I've worked with singers where they don't want any verb at all. No verb is less forgiving. So really it'll keep you more accountable if you have less verb. But I like singing with verb because it gives that bigger room feeling.
Generation, we worship you.
Hallelujah.
There's that chorus.
Hallelujah, we worship
Ignore delay for now.
who you are.
Honestly, for in-ears, I wouldn't use delay. You risk if there's a front of house engineer who forgets to tap tempo correctly. If you have delay up and the tap is off, you're gonna get thrown off by the delay. So that's mostly an in-house effect. I would ignore that in your mix. And so let's hear drum verb.
Everybody put a little bit to it tonight. Yeah.
Band verb is usually just acoustic, really, acoustic and cajon. So you can leave it up a little bit.
Endureth forever.
Say, Lord, you are good.
I'm gonna turn up ClearCom to balance MD.
Say, people from every nation. People from every nation. And from generation to generation. We worship.
So So in this situation, I would favor clear comm for MD over MD channel, because you want to have this up enough where you can hear if production has something to say. We only use that channel if it's really important, like an extra baptism or something's happening where you need you to keep going or stop. Yeah, we're not going to spam you on that. So green room, I would leave it. We would have to test it, but leave it around here. And same for front of house. Don't turn down front of house, because if there's something that front of house needs to tell you that's important, like in the middle of a song, we're not going to just usually say something off the cuff that's not really important. So these are important channels to have up. So in the instance where we do need to say something, you'll hear us. Okay.
You got just drums here after this?
Sing it again.
Drums.
You are good.
So I like that vocal mix.
Just drum.
You are good. All the time. You are good. So good, so good, so good, so good. Just a church. You are good.
So here's that crowd. There's crowd. So you could leave it right about.
Yeah. Sing it
I
again.
like it
Sing
there.
Say you are good.
Yeah, it's not bad. So this mix is pretty balanced. I've panned stuff.
Now, you know I gotta sing it in
I
Spanish.
can hear David. And here's the thing with this mix, because my pack is, I got a good volume right now. In my ears, it's a lot. I had to turn it down a little bit, but I have so much headroom, meaning I have so much more room I could turn this up, because I could keep going all the way up. This is only half. But at 0, for my ears, this is loud. So I like having that, but the good news is, you see this level, you don't want to get to the point where you're peaking this output. If everything's way up here, that means your pack is too low and you've had to turn all these channels, all of them, way more up. And that just, when it starts to clip the mix, you lose headroom, which means that everything it's basically hitting a ceiling, and you lose dynamics, and it will not be a good listening experience. So watch this meter. Down here is honestly not bad because you have so much headroom here. If your mix is living at looking at the numbers on the right, if your mix is living at like -5, -10, that's fine. And you can keep your pack volume lower. What we don't want is for the pack volume to be super low, like that, and then have this turned like all the way up, a bunch of other channels turned up, because that will not sound good. You'll lose the ability to say you can't hear yourself anymore. Well, you've turned everything all the way up. What I would tell people is, hey, make sure your master of your aux is at 0. Make sure your pack is at least noon, if you're looking at it like a clock. So this is, I flipped it upside down. Off is like, what is that, 7, 8 o'clock. And then on, you turn a little bit to 9 o'clock. Noon, that's really loud for me. And if you needed more, you could turn it up, because it goes all the way to 10. But start at 5. That should give you a lot, especially if you, this is loud for me with these. If I had my molds in, like my UEs, it would be even louder, because they go in a little bit further to the ear and they're fitted. And with that, you need to be careful. You don't want to blow out your ears, but you want to have headroom. And you want it, because like right now, if you look at vocals, where are they? I am at -9 with David, and I'm doing his mix. So if he can't hear himself, he's got so much room
He really is good.
to turn himself up.
He really
And
is
now
good.
he's way on top of the mix above everybody else. And that's good. That could be fine. There's still
Now,
a good
church, before
balance
we
of
go,
everything. There's still a good balance, but I would keep, for me, let's keep it down here. I think that's a pretty good mix. So takeaways here, you want balance. You want to be able to hear the whole band and have a good listening experience that gives you context for what you're playing and singing. You want to hear the other vocals so that you know that you're in tune and in sync with what they're singing. You want to hear the important like guide type things with click, guide, MD, whether the MD is in keys or drums. You also want to have the clear comm, green room talkback, and front of house talkback up so you can hear them. During run through, like we should do a check. Like David should go in the back and say something on the green room talkback and get a level on it. You should ask front of house. I mean, normally we'll be talking to you anyway, but ask front of house, hey, give us a check on front of house. Even ask production, give us a check on MD channel of ClearComm so you can hear how loud Andy or myself would be on that channel. But yeah, let's just listen to this a little bit more and we'll call it.
People. Here we go. People say, people from every nation and tongue, from generation. Let's go. We worship you. Hallelujah.
Line.
We worship you. Who you are. We worship you. Say hallelujah.
All in.
All right. So that's how you build a mix. You don't want to turn stuff up. You know what I tell people is like, if I'm David, I don't want to be here. If you get to the point where you're turning stuff up all the way, you have no room for wiggle room. If you build a mix that is pushing faders up too high, so that is really where balancing the master fader of your aux, it's called aux, it's just the mix, keeping it at 0, and then using the pack itself to manage your volume is really important. But yeah, if you ever have issues with doing in-ear mixes, check with the front of house engineer or myself, and be happy to jump on and look at the app, or we can put our ears in back there and hear your mix if something's funky. But yeah, otherwise, that's what I got.